Okay, today we're gonna be talking on geographic farming, as you know. In 1983, I got my license and came on and joined my husband, Ed, who had already been in the business for 4 years. And I thought I was gonna come in and just kind of assist him behind the scenes with his real estate business. But he very quickly turned to me and said, would you like to cold call or door knock? And I'm like, whoa. No, I'm gonna help you. He's like, no, you've got your license now. How do you want to prospect? Do you want to cold call or door knock? Which back then, those were probably some of the biggest ways people did it. Well, I was deathly afraid of phones. I just have phonophobia. So there really wasn't a choice which way I was gonna go. And so the first month I was in the business, I actually went to a Tom Hopkins seminar, which most people don't even know of him today, but the old timers might know him. And he came from Simi Valley, in fact, so our company, Aviara, would maybe know of him more. But at any rate, I went to Tom Hopkins seminar, which was very entertaining because he's quite the professional speaker, unlike myself. But he talked about door knocking. And so the way he did it, though, is he wanted you to keep coming back, and every time you went to the door, you'd be knocking on it and saying, hi, I'm Angie Wright with Regency Real Estate. Are you thinking about buying or selling, or do you know anyone else who is? And to keep coming through that way. And I thought, can't do that. That's just not my style. But from his seminar, I did pick up a lot of tidbits that I could personalize to myself. And so geographic farming became the foundation to how I came into the business to work beside Ed. And he'd already had a good tracking in the business. He got off to a pretty good start. But now we were going to do geographic farming as a foundation. Well, by 1988, we were with Century 21 at that time, and we were number 2 in the nation of all the Century 21s, and so Century 21 agents. And so we had really, kind of delved in and figured out how this worked very effectively. Well, around that time, we left and went to the local independent, which was Lakeview Real Estate, and we started working over there. Again, still doing our geographic farm in the same area that we had always done. But while we were there, they wanted to put together a company-wide geographic farming program. And so we started to lead that group and help other agents with geographic farming. And what we found is that there is really a formula that succeeds with geographic farming, because not only did it work for us, it worked for others. And I'll tell you, with us, we were really, really consistent with what we did. And I'm gonna lay out this formula for you, and if you will follow it, you will have the same kind of results. I've seen it repeat over and over, but I've also seen people take it and deviate quite a bit and not do things consistently. And then they didn't have as consistent results. They still had good results, but not what they could have. With us, we ended up averaging 88 transactions a year for over a 20-year period. We went over a 20-year period with never having a month where we didn't have a sale, and most months there was multiple sales. And I don't think there's a lot of real estate agents that can say that as far as the consistency of business that went on. But it also translated for the company we were with at that time, because they grew through geographic farming to have a 40% market share in the Saddleback Valley. So just because people got out there and were very serious about geographic farming. Now, the cool thing about this is I don't tell you to dazzle you with our numbers, but to share with you that the success is repeatable, and it does play into a formula that you can follow as well. So before I get into the formula, I just want to say that geographic farming isn't for everybody. In fact, I've probably spent more time in recent years talking people out of geographic farming rather than into it. So I'm going to share with you a few things that I think you have to evaluate about yourself and the way you want to do your business before you decide to invest in geographic farming. If you're new to it can be a really good thing if you're new to the business without much of a social sphere, because this becomes a social sphere eventually. Early on, you're a stranger to all these people. But as you develop relationships within the geographic farm, they become an addition to your social sphere. If you have a really good work ethic, that's going to be important with this, because you've got to follow the program very consistently. If you enjoy making new acquaintances, which hopefully you do if you're in real estate, because that's kind of foundational to our business. And if you're willing to keep at it, even if you receive some rejection, because there will, again, you're going out to meet strangers, there will be some rejection, But thankfully, it isn't as big as what we build in our heads. It's actually quite minimal. And I experienced that, but I've also seen others. It was never what they thought. The other thing is, if you don't need immediate results, because geographic farming, because you are going out there creating relationships from a cold instance, so to speak, it takes a while before you actually cultivate those relationships. But once you do, it's powerful. So if you don't need immediate income from the geographic farm, that can be good. And then you're in a position to make an investment. So it's kind of the flip-flop. You not only aren't going to be getting money right away from geographic farming, but you're going to have to invest into it. But again, you're building for your future. So it's very powerful that way. Now, I forgot I had my little things here. This is an article that was done on us back in the day with us doing our geographic farming in our gold jackets, because we were with C21 back then. It's so funny to look at now. But at any rate, as I get into the actual formula now, the cornerstone to the whole program is going to be consistency and personal contact. And this is really true of any kind of prospecting you're going to do, but it's so true with geographic farming. So, but before you start getting into the consistency and personal contact, you have to lay the proper foundation. So in other words, before you put the cornerstone into a building, you've got to lay a foundation. So let me talk about the foundation that I think is really powerful. And this is some of the stuff I got from that Tom Hopkins seminar I went to back when I first started, and it really became a strong first impression. So the first thing that he had us, part of laying the right foundation is choosing the right farm. So most people think they want to go really big. If I go bigger numbers, I'm going to have bigger results. But the truth of it is, and again, this played out over and over again when we were doing the farming program at Lakeview. I was constantly trying to get people to go smaller with their farms, and then they would blossom and do better. But you want to keep it to around 200 to 400 homes. If you start going beyond that, it's going to be hard to manage and do it as consistently and personally as I'm going to share with you. Choose a price range and an area of homes that you can be excited about selling and getting out there and marketing. It doesn't mean it's where you want to live. Maybe it is. Maybe it is an area you'd want to live in. But it needs to be something that you can be passionate about and excited for the homeowners that want to sell in there. You'll want to get a farm package from the title rep. We work with Orange Coast Title, and one of the nice things they have, and I imagine other title companies have something similar, but is they've got what they call their walking app, and it will designate your entire farm, and you'll see how that'll play into some of the things I'm going to talk about. But it goes home by home. You can add notes and all sorts of things there. Now, first impressions are lasting. So this is what I got from Tom Hopkins, and you probably can't really see it on the screen, but I'll share with you what it says. The very first thing you're going to do is you're going to send out a handwritten note that you aren't going to write 200 or 400 of these, but what you're going to do is you're going to write one that says, "Dear," and then you'll leave this part blank, and then the rest you'll write the body, and then you can go and get them copied at the copy store on cardstock type paper that makes note cards. And what you're going to say is, "Dear Mr. and Mrs.," and then you'll just have to handwrite in their name, like in this one it says Black, Mr. and Mrs. Black. "We would like to take this opportunity to introduce ourselves. We are Ed and Angie Wright with Regency Real Estate. We will be representing homeowners in your area, and we'll stop by in the next few days to meet you personally. We look forward to meeting you. Sincerely, Ed and Angie Wright." So what we did is I'd send out a batch of these by every couple streets, and I'd send them out every few days. So the first batch that I send out, then when I knew that they would have already received them, then I would come by and start knocking that area. Now, you want to mail these out first class. You don't want to put any return address or anything, because they aren't going to know who you are, and you don't want them to realize it's business. And you do want to hand address each of the envelopes that you're sending out. So this is the one and only time we ever mailed out to our farm. So it's a little bit of an expense, but it's the only time we did it. Now, some people like to do geographic farming where they don't have to door knock, and they'll do a gated community. then you would have to mail a lot. But I'm talking more an area that you can walk. So at any rate, so you mail these out, and then I wait until I know they've received it, a couple days later, and then I stop by, and this is what I'm gonna say. Hi. My name is Angie Wright. I have Aviar Real Estate here. Did you receive the introductory note that my husband and I sent you? And it doesn't really matter what they say. If they say yes, it's like, oh, great. If they say no, it's like, well, I was just stopping by today to introduce myself and to let you know that I'm going to be Aviar Real Estate's representative in your area. I'm also in the process of conducting a quick little survey. Could you help me by answering just a few quick questions? And pause there, and most people are gonna, oh, I'm so busy, and not, kind of go, oh, I promise it'll be very quick. And just kind of use your best smile and encouragement. And hopefully they will say yes. A lot of people will say no. But for the ones that will say yes, and ironically, I even had some people, it blew me away. We're so expecting the rejection. I had some people that said, hey, come on in, have a cup of coffee, we'll talk. It's like, especially when I went during the day, and I was there with other women that might be home during the day. On the survey then, it goes like this. And you can create your own survey. I changed questions from what Tom Hopkins had. My first question though was his first question is, do you feel the area is improving? Now this was meant to be a soft toss that they were all gonna say yes and start on a positive. But ironically, I actually got some people that said, well, yeah, but we're kind of curious what they're gonna do over here. It was supposed to be a school and a park, and now we're hearing they're gonna do housing there. What's going on with that? Well, I don't know. Let me get back to you on that. Or this slope area here, are they gonna be building over there, or is that gonna stay wilderness area forever? I don't know. Let me check on that and get back to you. Ironically, the first two people that asked me questions that I had to get back with, one of them became our first listing. So, it created a little bit more of a relationship there. The next question is, how long have you lived here? Now I start to get a sense for how long they've been there, and whether or not they might be getting closer to buying or selling. You live in and I'd say whatever the floor plan is. So you have to know the floor plans in the area that you're farming, but you live in a Madrid del Lago 720. What were some of the things that prompted you to buy this home? And in that, I start to get input as to what the best features are of each home that in my geographic farm that I am gonna be doing, and what they liked and what they didn't like. Then you go on and you say, may I ask how many are in your family? And with this, you wanna ask that way. You don't wanna say how many children do you have, because that could be a sensitive topic. Mm-hmm. But if they say, there's 4 in my family, then you can say, it's kind of a logical next step, oh, so you have 2 children. Now they might say, oh no, we only have 1 child, but my mother lives here too. That's okay, that's an honest mistake, but it doesn't, hurt anyone's feelings. Then if you're getting all these answers, then you say, oh, can I ask how old your daughter is or whatever, and try and get names and such. If it's friendly, you kind of go a little deeper. If not, you kind of move to the next question. And then what I did with one of our survey was I wanted to set up some things in the community there. I really did want to be their representative to help build community in a positive way. So I had young kids at the time, so we wanted to find out if there was interest in Neighborhood Watch, a children's play group, a welcoming committee, community referral guide, which back then we didn't have the internet, so we did our community referral guide, and a community cookbook. And then I went on to say, they ask your first name and your spouse's. Now I have the title information in my Orange Coast Title Walking app, but I don't know if Deborah goes by Deborah or Debbie, or if Frank Allen goes by Frank or Allen, so it's like you start to get their real names and how to refer to them in the future. Now, with this survey, this is a little tricky. You're gonna take about a month to do this. You're gonna be sending out batches every few days, and then you're gonna go do those streets when they've received them. And then once you've gone through the entire area, you're gonna go back through and you're gonna try and catch all the people that you didn't get the first time through. So I would go through about 4 or 5 times the entire neighborhood. Now each time you go through, you're only going back to the doors that nobody answered. So it gets smaller and smaller as you go through, but you're trying to catch as close to 100% as you possibly can. No such thing as 100%. If you do, you're very, very lucky. So Now, oh, and then also, it's on the next page, but I also asked for their email address if you can get that, because you want to start creating an email, I want to say library, but a resource of the emails in your neighborhood, because you're also going to want to set up an email program, which I'll get into in a minute. Now, once you've got you've gone through and you've got your list. Now, if you're using the app, you can just use that and make edits in there. Like, let's say they do go by Debbie and Alan instead of Deborah and Frank, or Frank and Debbie, whatever, I'm doing backwards. But at any rate, you know, you can make those adjustments in there. You can make those notes. If you found out that they've got a dog, Sparky, because he was yapping at your leg, you know, write that in there. And so just make as many notes as you can on the app. And then whenever you're going to be out in the neighborhood and walking through the neighborhood, you hold that app and make sure you can, like when Mrs. Jones is going out to the mailbox, you can go, oh, hi, Susie, you know, nice to see you again, and try and use names as best you can, and, you know, that type of thing as you're out there. Now, the survey that you did, you're going to want to compile a letter of the results. And so we put together a nice little letter and put on nice stationery, and then once we had all that put together, after I'd gone through those multiple times, I took that out, and that was my first time I went through and door knocked beyond doing the initial survey. And it was kind of fun. People like to hear, you know, about their neighborhood, you know, which street had the most kids, and which, you know, just kind of fun things like that. Well, at any rate, you know, I pulled together different things, what people liked about each of the floor plans. That was one of the things that I put in the letter and such. And I've got samples that I'll post on, we can post things on, yeah.
And what they bought in the neighborhood and such.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll be putting those things out there, but how we wrote that letter and put it back out to people.
Super.
So that became our first door knocking. And as I mentioned, you know, consistency and personal contact are the two things that will build this program. Well, the personal contact is going to come through the door knocking. So that first door knocking was through the letter, but then after that, you want to go through the entire farm once a month and door knock. And that's going to sound like a lot, but this is the first time you're starting to build your reputation in there. They say it takes 3 times for someone to see a stranger in brief seconds before they'll remember them. So you're not going to catch people home every time. The only time you try to catch the 100% is that first time through. After that, it's just whoever you connect with, and if they're not home, you don't connect. But you always we always took something to give them, and if they weren't there, we'd leave it. And so, excuse me just a minute.
Did you have a certain, can I ask you, did you have
Yes.
a certain time that you found was the best when you did this? I mean, I know that was a while back, but.
Right. And that's a really good question. So you want to go the most visible times. And I would mix it up a little bit, because like I said, when you caught some of the women that were stay-at-home moms, they were a little bit more social in the mid part of the day when the kids were at school. So, although nowadays they're at school at home.
Right.
So,
right.
But they might welcome somebody at the door still. But at any rate, you want to go during sometimes that. The absolute best time for farming I found was during the summer months when it's light out longer, and going from like 5 to 7 p.m. It's golden. In fact, half the time people are out in the front playing and having garage parties and such. So at any rate, that is the prime time. And then beyond that would be the weekends. Now I chose, just off of personal convictions, not to go on Sunday. And so but I made Saturday very prime, and I'd go out for long times on a Saturday. Although I found that I couldn't door knock beyond 4 hours. You get fatigued after 4 hours.
Sure.
And so you had to break that up. But at any rate, so you want to plan that first year to go through every single month and have something to give each time. And I'm gonna share with you some ideas, but if you need more ideas, email me. I'm happy to kind of share with you a whole folder of ideas of things you can do, because it doesn't have to be super expensive. I know, like one of the gals in our office, she just took a little box of raisins, made a cute little card and said, "I'm out raisin business." And that was just a cute, fun thing to hand at the door. It's just, I want to have something to give them that's kind of fun, or meaningful, or one of the things that some of our team members have done recently is these little camera things that go on your camera for your computer so that you can hide the screen or hide the camera when you're, I just broke it now.
The webcam.
Those are, yeah, the webcam. So that doesn't seem that big and impressive, but when it gives you something to explain to people, and then they're like, oh wow, that's cool. And so those types of things. But at any rate, and that wasn't a very expensive handout. So they don't have to be super expensive, but you do need to get out there once a month for that first year. After the first year, you can drop down to like 8 times a year. After you've done that for about 4 years, you can go down to 6. And then once we got past like 15 years, we were going out 4 times a year. So at that point, they really know you and they've seen you. Now, we actually began the survey and such in September. And then I door knocked the results letter. I spent like September and October. I started mid-September, so by the end of October I had that done. In November I did the results letter, and then in December we did a bottle of Martinelli cider because it was kind of festive for the holidays. And so that was a really strong start. And we always did do something a little bit bigger in December, even years going forward. In fact, we always did the Martinelli cider. But at any rate, so that was how we started. And it got things off to a good, strong start. Now, door knocking can be a little bit intimidating, I realize that. But I want to give you some tips that'll kind of help you. First of all, I think it's really important that you always dress professionally. I know our society has gotten far more casual as I stand up here in jeans, which I never would have done years ago doing a seminar, but we've gotten more casual. But when you are going as the professional, their advisor, you want to be their advisor on their biggest investment in most cases, you need to dress professionally so they look at you as a professional. So I really encourage you to do that when you go out geographic farming, to always dress professional. Always have something of value to give. Doesn't have to be super expensive. It's something that you can hand off to them at the door. Don't stand too close to the door, and always introduce yourself. So this is the way I might do it. I ring the doorbell, and what I always did is I'd ring the doorbell, and then I'd take I'd wait until they were opening the door, and then I'd take a little half step back. It's just far less intimidating to do that. And so ring the doorbell, half step back, and say, hi Cody, Angie with Regency Real Estate, just stopping by with a bottle of Martinelli's for you. And I'd hand it off, and then I'd have just a brief pause to see what Cody might say. And sometimes, it might get into a good conversation. Other times he might just say, thank you. And then I say, well, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, and then I'm off, so I'm not a big intrusion. And it took people a while. I mean, nobody likes people at their front door. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be the person that nobody liked at the front of their door, because I don't like people coming to my door. But when they started to see that it was quick, you got something, and then I'm out of there, and it was quick and friendly, it's like, then it got to where people weren't as intimidated, and they'd start engaging more in conversations and such. So it takes a little while before it warms up that way, but it truly does, because you're doing it in such a non-offensive way, and it's usually fun, and you get to know people better then as time goes on. You get to know their kids and their dogs, and what school the things are going on at, or whatever might be happening. When you're out there, don't talk real estate unless they bring it up first. It's funny, because if you're there always talking real estate, they're feeling like, oh, here she comes again. And so I never did that. I just always made it social, a little social call. Keep the conversation brief, like I said. You need to be professional and know what's going on in the neighborhood. So you need to know every listing, every sale. Hopefully, if anything has gone on in the neighborhood, you've been into that house and seen what was listed and what's sold and that type of thing. You need to know the different floor plans. You need to know the square footages. You need to know these things. The schools that they go to. You need to be the expert. Never walk across lawns. That sounds funny, but no, seriously, that's a big deal. Yeah. People can be offended by that.
True.
And that being said, compliment their homes whenever possible. If they've decorated really cute for Halloween, like we're in that season right now, or for the fall, compliment them on that. And not only compliment them, let's say you don't even see them at the door, write them a note later and just say, hey, I was by your house today and noticed how beautiful you have it decorated. do those things, because it's really interesting. We're just normal people, but somehow to the homeowners in the neighborhood, your compliment is huge because you're the real estate expert and you admired something about their home. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, holiday related. If somebody painted their front door or did some more new seasonal flowers, notice those things and compliment people on them. It really is a powerful thing for them. And start servicing people in the neighborhood before they are thinking about buying or selling. I remember one guy, I was walking by his house one day. He was a newer homeowner in there, and there was just water gushing out a drain from his backyard. Just gushing. And we had represented the seller on that house, but he was the buyer. We didn't represent the buyer. And I said, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And he goes, "I'm having these problems with my pool in the backyard and yada, yada, yada." And he goes, "I need a plumber or a pool guy." And I said, "Oh, I don't know one off the top of my head, but I've got our referral guide. Let me run and get you one and bring it back." And so I brought that back over to him, and he was so appreciative. As it turned out, that house and the maintenance to it was more overwhelming than what they wanted. And he ended up selling 6 months later, and guess who listed the home? He didn't go back through his own buyer's agent. He worked with us. So, you don't have to do service things with dollar signs in your eyes. Just be that helpful person and the people that they go to in the neighborhood, and they'll start thinking of you that way. Now, you want to create a consistency. That was the personal contact, the door knocking. Now you want to create a consistency of going through the neighborhood every other week and dropping something on their door. And I'll explain kind of what you can do along those lines. Now, when we did this, we literally went out 51 weeks a year, and we dropped in our neighborhood because email wasn't a thing back then. And I'm going to use email as your other 2 weeks in the month. And when you're door knocking, that counts in lieu of a door drop. So if you're going out, if this is your first year and you're going out 12 times this year, then you wouldn't be doing those other, that would count as one of your door drops that I'm talking about here. Now, when you're putting things out in the neighborhood that you're gonna put on their door, you wanna keep it community minded and real estate minded. Not every handout, but you need to keep a balance in this. There was a gentleman I was helping kind of start to thrive in his geo farm, and he was really frustrated because he was a really seasoned professional, but he had taken on this new farm, and he's getting beat out by this brand new licensed agent who was more of a housewife than a realtor. And she was winning the listings, and he wasn't even getting called out on them. And so we started to kind of dissect what he was doing and what she was doing. Well, she was going out and connecting really well with the women in the neighborhood, and he just kept putting out business, real estate, just listed, just sold, everything was, stats and all that. And he wasn't connecting on a more personal level. And so what we did is we talked about, so now let's start to do a balance. You are certainly more experienced and the better agent here, so you need to still put out that kind of materials, but let's balance it with things that are community minded, things that are good for the neighborhood, or just, fun things. That are going on. And we're going to share how you come up with those ideas or how you work towards that. But once he did that, game over. She was out of there. And he dominated. Now, let's see. Yeah, so, okay, never mind. I already said that. So, one of the ways that I come up with ideas that are community minded and stuff is I like to think of, like, you've got the 12-month year. I want to come up with at least every other month that I'm going to do something that's a little bit more promotional. And what I mean by that, it might be like in around the time that the Academy Awards are going, do an Oscar contest where people are guessing who they think is going to win each of the main categories, and then give them a pair of movie tickets for all those that get it right. Or a Valentine romantic getaway contest. We combined agents to do that, to put in money into the pool so that we could have some good prizes, and then we all were able to do our geographic farm where we put out that they could win this romantic getaway. Easter coloring contest around Easter for the kids. If you've got a lot of little kids in the neighborhood, those are really popular. And with that, I always made sure that every single kid that entered was a winner. And so you brought by just cute little stuffed animals or set of crayons or something, just fun for the kids, candy. Around the holiday or the fall, you can do a pumpkin pie drawing. And so, and again, Costco, you can get really good pies for, a reasonable price. You could have 10 or 12 winners. We did flags on the 4th of July. I've forgotten to, there. But flags on the 4th of July, that actually it counts as a door drop, even though you're putting flags through the neighborhood on the lawn, and it looks so spectacular. And really a strong patriotic feel, which is really nice. We also tried to do kind of charitable type things. So we do a collection, food collection every year for the homeless. And I like to do it, they get a lot of good contributions around the holidays, but their food pantries are often very low in the summer, and yet the needs year round. And so we do Christmas in July type thing, and we collect in July for the homeless. And that was really well received. Now, in addition, so you can see with these, they become some of your fun handouts that are more community minded rather than business related. And then you can still be doing the just listed, just solds and statistics and things like that that you want to put out through the neighborhood. Now, another thing that I did each year is I came up with a major project that I was going to do in the geographic farm. And here are some of the ideas, like a garage sale. We never did an Easter egg hunt, but I know agents that did do Easter egg hunts, and they were very effective and really fun. We used to drop pumpkins door to door, which was quite a production, but later on we did a pumpkin patch, and the people could come to the pumpkin patch, but not as effective as far as the social interaction.
Wow.
But I'll tell you, when you show up with a pumpkin at the front door, it was so well received. It was really cool. Neighborhood watch, we did put that together in our neighborhood. I know a lot of people are doing back to school ice cream socials. We actually did an ice cream truck that we did through the neighborhood. Welcoming committee, we started a welcoming committee, and what's cool with this is you all invite everybody that moves into the neighborhood. Well, you're probably more often on the listing side, not the buy side, but it gives you an opportunity now to invite these new buyers to come to a community sponsored. It's not the real estate agent doing it, but you're kind of in charge of making sure everyone gets invited. And we rotate houses, so I got invited into different people's homes, and I was just there as one of the gang, but lo and behold, they love to talk real estate.
What did you do with that? I mean, that welcoming committee?
It was a social evening. It was like appetizers, come meet the neighbors. It was just, and we did it once every, I think we did it every couple months is what we did back then. And so, yeah, anyone that had moved in within the last couple months, and what happened too, if nobody had moved in, we just had a social gathering of, a little happy hour type thing, refreshments and that type of thing. So, and then e-waste recycling, I know that's very popular now. And so, there's so many different things you can do along these lines, but what you start to realize is with each of these, let's say you're gonna do a garage sale. You tell them that you're gonna do it and invite them to participate. You tell them again you're gonna do it and invite them to participate. So you start the promotion early, then you actually do the event, you take lots of good pictures, then you tell them what you did and the success of it. So you can see how each of these promotional and major projects and stuff become multiple handouts. And so my problem in the later years of our geographic farming wasn't that I didn't have enough ideas, it's that I'd have 4 flyers a week. And we were doing it weekly, but we had so many just listed, just solds, and then we also had the community things that were going on and all. I mean, these were good problems to have. And the other thing too is hopefully as you get going with your business, you also start with the geographic farming, you start getting business and you're starting to get more and more business. So you want to get to where you're planning way far out, because you can have some really busy weeks, but you have to stay consistent. So it didn't matter how busy we were. In some of the years we were doing over 100 transactions, and we still had to get out there every single week and make sure that the farming got done. And I'll share with you a little bit how you can get a little easier on that as time goes on. Now, in addition, since you aren't going to be out there weekly, now I want you to also start doing a bi-weekly newsletter. So every other week, you're either doing a drop or a weekly newsletter. There are newsletters you can subscribe to. We use Wingwire for our website, and they actually create a newsletter and do social media posts. Love it. So it's just automated. I don't even have to think about it. It just happens. But you have to be intentional about building your e-newsletter or your email list, because you aren't going to have everybody's initially. But when you went out and you did your initial survey, you're going to get some emails that way. If you do a project, say like a garage sale, everybody has to sign up by emailing you back. You gather their emails that way. Everything, if you have a contest, if you do a pumpkin pie drawing, they need to give you their email address. So you're building this library as it goes on. I don't know why library is the word that's in my head, but you're building this list as it goes along, and from all the different things that you're doing. And as you do that, now your e-newsletter becomes more and more important. Now you can subscribe like we do to the Wingwire and just have it automated type thing. But also I would suggest occasionally putting out things that are very much community minded for the actual community, and do that via e-newsletter too. One year, I remember at the end of the school year, I thought, you know, they always are giving awards for the different things that the kids have done and their accomplishments and stuff. But I thought it would be kind of cute if each of the parents would send in a little blurb about their kid, like did really good in school, or got on the all-star team or the Little League or whatever. So we did, my child is a superstar or something like that, an all-star or something like that. And they sent it in, a little blurb and a picture of their kid, and that would be a really good e-newsletter now, or to send out that way. I did it on a flyer back then, in the olden days. But at any rate, now you can have more fun with those things. So, now you've built all this, but now the other thing that you want to start doing is weekly ads through social media. This is such a powerful tool, because you can pin an area and advertise to that area, and you can also even input email addresses and target that way too. So there's multiple ways you can target, but you can just target to your geo farm. So if you're ever holding an open house or just generic things, hopefully I can bring this up. It may not work. Nah, it's not going to work. If you go to Melody and Associates, her Instagram page, she's really good about just doing generic ads, like have you outgrown your home? She's doing some really cute little short video blurbs right now that she probably subscribes to a service that does these for her. But you know, right now as we're shut down and quarantined in our homes, you know, would you like to have a pool? Would you like to, you know, things like this, and to see if people might be thinking about buying or selling, or to open that conversation. And so you just want to kind of keep a consistency out there. It doesn't have to be always saying buy, sell. It can just be, you know, kind of your branding out there just to keep top of mind. They're going to feel like you're everywhere and you must be doing a boatload of business, and so if they want to buy or sell, they should go through you, and that's the image that you want to get. Now, in addition to that, you want to be holding open houses in your farm whenever you can. Now, certainly if you have your own listings, you'll be able to hold those open, but if you don't have listings, especially early on, contact the agents that are getting listings in there. Whether or not they're with your company, you can ask if they would allow you to hold it open. And many agents, you know, they don't like to hold open houses. They're lost. But when you're holding an open house in your geo farm, not only do you have the opportunity for buyers to come in, and you're making your sellers happy if it's your listing, but you will find that the neighbors come in because now you've become their friend, and so they want to pop in and say hi, and so instead of you showing up at their door, they're showing up at your door, and it just changes the whole equation in such a powerful, good way. Now, you may have people popping in that you aren't sure if they live in the neighborhood and you haven't really met them yet, or you don't remember, or whatever. Well, one of the things that we did, and this is actually another realtor's, but we did this too, and then he did the same thing. But we took the plat map from all of the neighborhood and kind of put it all together. We color coded which ones had tile roofs and what the different floor plans were. And it's kind of like a new home sales when you walk in and you can see where the different homes are available. Well, now you're doing it with your geo farm, and people walk in and go, oh, this is where we are, you know, and they point to it. So now all of a sudden, you know, oh, they live in the neighborhood. So kind of cool. And, or you can talk about maybe the home that you're holding open. you know, you can see, this doesn't show it, but you can see that, you know, this, where the lake is, where the parks are, and you can start to point out things to potential buyers as well. So the farm map is a little bit of a project, but you only do it once. You want to do it on a light frame type thing, and even set it up on an easel in right as people come in would be powerful good.
Can I ask you, what are all those lines that on this parameter of it? You're pointing to things on each street. Are they the floor plans? I mean,
over here?
all the
I think it's
So he color coded this is his, ours was done a little differently, but I didn't ever take a picture of it.
above it, Angie.
Is it the names of the streets?
Oh,
that-
here?
Yeah.
Yes,
Are
those
those
are the,
street
yes,
names?
yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay, I
because
see.
they weren't on here for some reason.
And the other ones below are the floor plans.
Yes, floor plans.
Yeah, very cool.
And then he had little dots for the solds. Because
Right.
he had a glass on it, so he could take things on and off. But I think the solds, what he means there are the ones he sold. 'Cause
Yes,
he did
yes.
powerful good in here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
share his story in just a minute.
Very cool.
So Hugh Zetland was interesting. He was actually holding an open house in our farm. I should have been doing it probably. But that particular day I was out door knocking. And so he was sitting there, and it was a really slow open house. So he's standing out front, kind of hoping somebody might come by. And he's watching me go door to door to door to door with, you know, our little giveaway and stuff. And he's like, something's wrong with this picture. And he was the master at open houses. Because I'm sitting here waiting for somebody to come through, and she's going out and making contact with all these people. So Hugh sat down with us and said, I want a geographic farm. And so we shared with him the formula, and he took it to heart and went to town. I mean, this guy, if we said jump, he jumped. If we said step, he stepped. I mean, he did everything masterfully. And he probably, this is a lot of years ago, but he had made like $70,000 that year. I think he put back in probably half of that, at least he said he did, and into the geo farm. He just really invested in a big way. We actually had a couple listings in his farm, so we let him put his name and sign out rather than us. We asked our homeowners, and they said sure. But he did it for a year and no results. And he was so faithful about door knocking and dropping and all of that. So 13th month comes, and he's getting a little discouraged, and we're like, hang in there, hang in there. He goes, I'm just walking in faith, I'm gonna keep going. And by the 15th month, he started to get listings. He ended up with 16 listings in the next 2 months. So it just
Wow.
all was pent up, and it crashed for him. Now, he took on a bigger farm than what I normally would have encouraged, but he said, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And he did. He owned that farm. And I wish I could show you this, but it's not gonna play. I can play it at the very end, I'll show you. But he was older. He's probably about 15 years older than us. And this farm was huge. And so he came up with a great idea. He started to engage kids in the neighborhood to come and work with him. And so he got to know their parents, he paid them. They had little uniforms they wore. He had his A team and the B team, and he'd kind of have them competing against each other, who was the best, the boys or the girls or whatever. And then he goes and gets a golf cart. And it's like a little humdinger type thing, so it looks like a Hummer. And so it's a 4-seater. So he has 3 kids that are on it at a time. He has different flags for the different holidays. And he just had it all masterfully planned out. He has little refreshments for the kids, but they knew that they would jump off, and one would go to this house, one would go to that house, one would go to that house, then they'd jump back on, grab flyers, and it was masterful the way he did this thing. The kids would get too old at a certain point. He goes, once they got to be like 14, they were too sassy, they were too good for this. But he'd pass it down to the younger siblings. You know, the younger siblings couldn't wait to get where they were making money and stuff. And so, anyway, he just did it masterfully. And these kids loved having a little job. The parents loved having a little job. These little kids grew up and became homeowners through him. And so it really just played out powerfully for him. And sadly, I don't think I can show it through this, the way I have this set up. So I'll show it. Sorry. Oh well, I will show it to you guys later. the statement here, a successful man is one who can lay a firm foundation with the bricks others have thrown at him. Kind of an ominous statement, but the truth is that geographic farming can be a little scary. Like I said, we know we're gonna go out and get rejection, and so that's kind of what's forefront in our mind. And Tom Hopkins, when I started, knew that too. And so he had a bunch of little like mantras that you were supposed to like have flashcards and say them as you're going between houses. And I literally did this. It's so funny. But some of them was, whenever you're confronted, this was his main statement. Whenever you're confronted with obstacles, problems, frustrations, or rejections, use these attitudes towards failure to remove the anxiety and keep a positive attitude. I never see failure as failure, but only as a learning experience. I love that one, and I use that in all aspects of my business. If I go on a listing presentation and we don't win, which actually thankfully as we got going later in our careers, I mean, we just won most of them, but if, sometimes you didn't. If we could learn, if there was something I could take from that, then we won anyway, is how I looked at it. I never see failure as failure, but only as the negative feedback I need to change my course and direction. And we did learn a lot of times that we needed to navigate differently. Our philosophy in business was always that we are the best we've ever been, but I know next year we're going to be even better, because every single year we're always looking for ways to improve and get better. Our listing presentation was never the same from year to year. Our buyer presentation was never the same from year to year. We were always changing and improving. And I'll tell you, with the technology and how things are changing today, that's more true today than it's ever been. But if you're not moving ahead, you're moving backwards. There's no such thing as staying the same. So always be looking for ways to improve. I never see failure as failure, but only as the opportunity to practice my technique and perfect my performance. I was talking to Davis the other day, and she had written like 5 offers for these clients. And she goes, but I never she finally got them into escrow at like $1.4 million. So it was worth the going through all that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that she said, I never got frustrated because I saw that I was just learning and practicing. She's newer to the business, so she goes, every one I got to write, I got better and more confident with and quicker. And so, when you're practicing, when you're doing things, you're practicing. And I never see failure as failure, but only as an opportunity to develop my sense of humor. One time we were let's see if I can remember this exactly right. One time we were at the door, and so Ed knocks on the door and says, "Hi, I'm Ed and Angie," because it was the two of us there. And then you walk over here like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you said that." Well, I was showing it at the house, or showing it at the office one day that what had happened, and this other person goes, "Oh, that's nothing. One time I went to the door and I said, 'Hi, we're Joan Dean,' and and just said the one name, and then another guy goes, 'Oh, I can top you all.' It was Joe and Julie that farmed together. He knocks on the door and goes, 'Hi, we're Jew and Jolie.'" I mean, I didn't cover that one. It'd be really silly. So, hey, sometimes you're just developing your sense of humor as you go along. Now, I lost my place.
You don't like me now.
Pardon? What'd you say?
You don't like me now.
Yeah, really. But yeah, you just have to laugh. I have a worse one that I did one time, but I won't tell that one. But I definitely laughed about it later.
You're so nervous at first, so
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Oh, I got the giggles one time. Yeah, it was really bad. And Ed's like, seriously? So, but through the program of this consistency and personal contact that I've been sharing with you, over time, you're going to develop not only business within the geographic farm, you're going to get listings, and what you're also going to get is you're going to get buyers. You'll get buyers that come to your open houses. You'll get people in the neighborhood that have friends that want to move into that neighborhood. But then you start to get the referrals for outside the neighborhood, and those get even more powerful. We almost didn't like it when people moved in and out of our farm because you lost the referral base of some of those people. But no, I mean, if you work it right, you'll not only get the parents, you'll get their kids that grow up and know you, and that you're the person that they've always seen doing real estate. When it comes time for them to buy and sell, they'll contact you. We haven't sold in, other than our kids, in like 14 years. And I got a lead this last month from one of our past clients. Her adult daughter is looking to buy something up in Washington and asked, could I give him a referral? I mean, that's such a huge compliment. So it generates leads not only within the farm, but outside of the farm. And it's really important to not only keep in touch with people in the farm, but as they start to move out, they become your social sphere within the area. And that's a whole other seminar, which happens to be on 805 Academy. But you definitely want to have a program that keeps in touch with those people too. But here's how we looked at it. You know, they say that somebody moves about on average right now, it keeps getting, people are staying put longer. So now it's about every 13 years, people will move. So you figure, okay, a client sells after 13 years and then they buy another home. So that's 2 sales within a 13-year period. So figure, okay, every 6.5 years, on average, I get a transaction from these people. That's good to get a transaction every 6.5 years from each of your clients. But what if you turn them into a raving fan that wants to give a referral to you one every year? Now all of a sudden that same client, if they become that ambassador for you, you're not only getting 1 transaction every 6.5 years from them, you're getting 6 transactions in 6.5 years. And so it's powerful when you can create these relationships. So what I'm having you do here is a lot of work, but you're expanding your social sphere, not only to your sphere of influence, but now this geographic area where they love you. You're their person. So you're really looking not only for the business in the farm, but even bigger, the referrals. And one of the things you need to be sure to do is always thank for referrals. Now, you don't have to thank in a huge, big way. In fact, people can almost feel guilty that they referred you if they got a big gift. It's like, oh, gee, you know, I don't want my friends to think I referred because I got something for it. But you want to thank them in a nice enough way. And I was very calculating the way I did this. This was an important thing. Sometimes when people refer you, they say, I told, you know, my friends, Joe and Julie, to call you, and that they're looking to buy something or sell something. And when they do that, I always turned it and said, oh, would it be all right if I contacted them? Can I get their information? And sometimes people say, well, I'd rather them, you know, let's just let them call you when they're ready. And that's not uncommon. So what I would do, if I got their contact, obviously I'm reaching out right away. But if in fact I didn't get their contact information, I wait 24 hours before I deliver this thank you gift. Then when I take the thank you gift by, I write in the note in case I don't see them at the house. I'm gonna leave it there for them if they're not there. But the note, or if I see them at the door, is basically going to say, I'm really looking forward to working with Joe and Julie, and you can be sure I'm gonna give them our very best right team service. I haven't heard from them yet, but I definitely will take good care of them when we do, something to that effect. I would word it a little better in the card. But I'm letting them know I haven't heard from them yet, because now I've brought a gift by to say thank you on something that hasn't even happened yet. They're gonna now make sure that Julie and Joe give me a call and we can get moving with things. So it just helps things move along a little bit better. And here's the other thing too, it's an extra level, but if you even keep touch base with them like throughout the transaction, or touch base at the end when it closes and thank them again, powerful, good. But here's the thing, sometimes people refer somebody that becomes the client from hell.
Right.
And they feel bad, or maybe they make you spin your wheels and do a lot of work and then they don't buy or sell. And the referring person now feels guilty. Don't want that to happen, because when somebody will refer once, they'll refer again if they feel good about it. But if they feel bad, they're gonna like close back. So you need to let people know that you appreciate the leads, even if they don't work out, and especially if they don't work out, that you still appreciated the thought that they gave you a referral lead. That's so important, because otherwise you'll lose a good referral source just because it went a little haywire, which that's not their fault. Now, some other ways that you can help gain more business is servicing the buyer after the close of escrow. And what I mean by this is if you didn't represent the buyer, or if you did, but stop by, if you didn't represent them, stop by and welcome them to the neighborhood. Let them know that you service the area, and here's where you're servicing them before they even have a need. And they might think, wow, you know, I'm not gonna be buying or selling anytime soon, we just bought here. But you start to get, you know, thought of as the neighborhood professional. If you represented the listing and you're stopping by to say hi, they may tell you that this garage door opener is not working right, or whatever, you know, the dishwasher's doing funny things. You need to be ready to solve those problems. It's part of what's gonna have them singing your praises, or, you know, singing, you know, saying not so nice things to you to the neighbors. So really powerful, important that you finish these things. Start building rapport, obviously. Give them your business card and invite them to call if they have any questions, that you know the neighborhood. So if they have any questions about anything, where the nearest, you know, dentist is, or, you know, who a good dentist is, or where the best shopping is, or whatever, you need to let them know those things. It's good if you have like a little welcoming package that you can bring by to welcome them to the neighborhood. That would be part of why you're stopping by. And I'll tell you, like I told you, the one guy that moved after 6 months, yeah, that was a good thing, because we had made a rapport with him, and I helped him through his tough circumstance. We had another one that they had moved in and only been there a month, but I stopped by and welcomed them. We didn't represent the buy or the sell side on that one, but a month after they lived there, they referred a buyer to us. And so that was pretty powerful. So they apparently weren't as happy with their existing agent or the other agent, and we got the lead. So yeah, don't ever, again, do it with dollar signs in your eyes, but recognize that when you're giving, it does come back. Yeah, you also want to stay in touch with these sellers. You know, when they, I like to, this is not necessarily after this close, but remind them to turn off all the utilities and give them the phone numbers so that they can do that, make it really easy. We always had a really nice closing gift that we give our sellers and deliver the closing papers. Let them know that you're going to induct them into your client hall of fame now that they've closed with you. And you know, I've got that's another seminar too, but there's a whole list of things you can do, and it's things you do anyway, but it just lets them feel a little bit more kind of not indebted, but committed to you being their realtor for life. And you add them to your sphere of influence program, whatever you're doing there. And keep in touch with them, because when people are happy with what you've done for them, the most prime time to get leads is usually about 60 days after. But if you stay top of mind and they've been happy with you, they will refer you down the road. And this is how you create those raving fans. If they moved out of the area, still put them on your program, at least from the email perspective and that type of thing. Because we've had clients that have moved back into the area, and they certainly still know people in the area, and we've had referrals from people. So don't just assume that they're gone when they could still be there to be in touch with you. Now, the next part is where people fall down, and that's writing out their plan and then working the plan. It's real tempting just to want to say, I've got it in my head, or I know what's coming up, but I'm telling you that if you will write it down, and I used to plan out the whole year in advance to the extent I could. I didn't know weekly handouts except, you know, maybe a month out, but I knew which door knocking items I was going to be doing. I knew what major project I was going to do. I knew what promotional items I was going to do. I had those things all planned out and diaried. And then when you figure out what you're doing on the big scale of things, then I would break it all down into little steps, and I put that right into my to-do list for each of those days. So like one of the big things I do every year, still do, is distribution of Christmas candy. I don't do the Martin Holly cider anymore because we don't geographic farm anymore, but our cards and the candy that I deliver, that's a huge, you can see it takes like 3 months to get it all really set and going. But when you're busy, you've got to have some big buffers on your timing so that you can get things done in the right frame. So I really encourage you guys to write it out and then follow that plan. As good old Napoleon Hill said, plan your work and work your plan. And so this is where most people break down. They don't go this part. And so, and then breaking it down into the smaller goals. So I really want to encourage you guys to do that, because at the end of the day, I know this formula works. I know it works if it's worked. And so you gotta personalize it to you a little bit. I mean, you can, like Hugh Zetlin, did the golf cart. One of the things I didn't tell you earlier, one of the things we did is when the boys were old enough, when I started, they were like 2 and 3. But as they got a little older, then I'd be out there walking the farm, and they could walk each to a house while we walked, so we'd do 3 houses at a time. So it got a little easier there. As time went on and we were more well known in the neighborhood, the boys then would go out, like when they were in junior high and high school, even in high school, they'd go out on their rollerblades and do the houses. But they always dressed professionally. They always had their right team little shirts on and such. And we also brought them into the business from the perspective of, if we got a listing and a sale in there, they got a bonus. And so they worked really hard to represent us well. And we had so many great things said back to us about the boys when they were doing that. And in fact, even now, I'll still run into people at Target or something that were in our geo farm, and they'll say, "Oh, how are the boys doing?" It's so cute. They became famous.
Right.
But bottom line, success is yours for the taking. You can adapt this to yourself, but don't deviate too much. Write out that plan and then work that plan, and the success is yours. So happy farming.
Very good.